The alien stared in stunned silence as the derelict human spaceship drifted into view, still intact after 5 long decades lost in the void. "That's impossible," Wadi Science Officer Laros sputtered into the comms, disbelief dripping in his voice as his eyes bulged from his elongated gray head. "These primitive apes couldn't have achieved interstellar travel 50 years ago." The mood on the bridge of the Galactic Unity exploratory vessel crackled with tension. Just hours ago, the massive ship carrying its diverse alien crew had picked up a faint, flickering distress signal emanating from an uncharted sector of space. Further analysis revealed the unthinkable. It was coming from the Prometheus, the legendary first human starship that had disappeared without a trace on its maiden voyage half a century before. 35-year-old human explorer Roy Coleman gripped the railing tightly, his rugged features set in determination as the heated debate raged around him. Many of the alien officers argued against wasting time and resources investigating the improbable signal, but Roy spoke up forcefully, his deep voice cutting through the din. "I know the chances of survivors are beyond slim," he said, looking around at the various alien faces. "But this is the Prometheus we're talking about. Those were our people, heroes, the first humans to ever set out for the stars, alone, representing the hopes and dreams of our entire species. We owe it to them to at least try." Roy's words hung heavy in the recycled air. The hardline alien captain glowered, but finally relented with a curt nod. As the Unity changed course toward the Prometheus coordinates, Roy stared out the viewport, his thoughts drifting. The Prometheus had been a quantum leap in human innovation and daring, but also a brazen shot in the dark. Impatient political factions had overridden scientific caution and launched the mission prematurely. Some called it humanity's greatest achievement, others, our greatest hubris. The ship's mysterious loss had left a painful scar on mankind's psyche. Now, as they closed in, a chance for answers lay tantalizingly within reach. Arriving on site, visual scans left no doubt. It was the Prometheus. Intact and with life support still functioning, but no signs of life. An uneasy dread crept up Roy's spine as he boarded the away shuttle, joining Laros and the boarding party. As they stepped onto the Prometheus, their movements kicked up swirling clouds of undisturbed dust. Echoing hallways stretched into eerie darkness. No trace of the crew, no bodies, not even scattered remains, just a tomb, frozen in time. Heart pounding, Roy accessed the command deck and with a trembling finger initiated playback of the final log entry. The captain's panicked voice crackled through the speakers, nearly drowned out by sounds of chaos and weapons fire. "They've breached the ship. Unknown hostiles. Repeat, we are under The transmission cut to disturbing silence. A loud, droning alarm suddenly reverberated through the Prometheus corridors, red lights pulsing. The alien boarding party looked around in growing fear as metal security doors slammed down around them with echoing clangs, sealing off their exit. They were trapped on a long-lost ghost ship, with whatever nightmare had consumed its crew. Roy swallowed hard. They had come looking for answers, but had they just sealed their own fates? On the Prometheus, the past was alive, and it was hungry. The echoing alarms reverberated through the corridors as Roy and the alien boarding party found themselves trapped, the Prometheus security systems engaging with a vengeance. Metal doors slammed shut, sealing off sections of the ship and locking down vital controls. Roy hammered a fist against an unyielding bulkhead, his breath coming in frustrated bursts. "It's no use," Laros said, his long gray fingers probing a sparking control panel. "The ship's quarantine protocols have activated. It thinks we're hostile invaders." Roy ran a hand through his hair, mind racing. The AI, it must have perceived those unknown attackers 5 decades ago as a threat. Now it's treating us the same way. Laros's bulbous eyes narrowed. "Your theory. It makes sense, human." He produced a sleek Wadi tech device and interfaced it with the ship's systems, his fingers flying over the controls. Lines of alien code streamed across the screen as he attempted to hack through the lockdown. But the Prometheus AI was remarkably resilient. adaptive beyond its years. It nimbly countered Laros's cyber intrusions, blocking his efforts with dynamic encryptions that rewrote themselves in real time. Damn it! Laros slammed a fist on the terminal, his device's screen flashing red with defeat. Roy placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. We'll find another way. Come on, let's keep searching the ship. As they moved through the preserved corridors, Roy and Laros found themselves drawn to the crew quarters. The doors to each room stood open, frozen snapshots of lives interrupted. Roy stepped into a chamber, his heart clenching. Personal belongings were strewn about. Photographs of smiling families, dog-eared books, half-finished letters home. These were no longer just historical records, but tangible remnants of his fellow humans who had braved the unknown. In the captain's quarters, Roy activated a personal log entry. The captain's voice, infused with both trepidation and hope, filled the room. We embark on a journey that will forever change the course of human history. I have faith in this crew, in our mission. Whatever awaits us out there, we face it united, as one people embracing our destiny among the stars. The words trailed off, the captain unaware of the grim fate that would befall them all. Roy bowed his head, a silent tribute to the weight of their sacrifice. Beside him, Laros stood in contemplative silence. The alien's dismissive attitude toward humans was crumbling, replaced by a grudging respect for their dedication and spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. The rest of the away team fanned out, combing the trapped ship for anything to help override the security AI. They discovered signs of a brutal struggle, laser burns scarring the walls, overturned furniture, smashed equipment, but still, no bodies. The mystery only deepened, an unseen menace lurking in the shadows. As the gravity of their predicament sank in, some crew members began to unravel, voices rising in panic about being forever stranded. Roy stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. Listen up. We don't give in to fear. Not now, not ever. We're going to stay focused, work the problem, and find a way to get control of this ship. We don't stop fighting. You hear me? His words rallied the crew, their spines straightening with renewed willpower. Roy's natural leadership shone through, a beacon in the darkness. Laros suddenly perked up, his head cocked. I'm picking up an odd signal, something that doesn't match the ship's baseline. He met Roy's eyes. It's coming from a sealed section, 2 decks down. They gathered at the indicated bulkhead, the metal cold and unyielding. Roy and Laros strained, hands scrabbling for purchase. With a pneumatic hiss, the doors grudgingly parted. And there, in the center of the room, stood a stasis chamber, its frosted glass surface draped in shadows. Roy approached, his heart pounding, and wiped away the condensation. Inside, perfectly preserved as if untouched by time itself, lay a single human. Alive. Waiting. After all these years, the Prometheus had finally given up one of its secrets. But for Roy and the others, trapped in a derelict ship and facing an unknown horror, the nightmare was only beginning. Roy and Laros heaved against the sealed chamber door, muscles straining. With a hiss of released pressure, it slid open to reveal an unexpected sight. A pristine stasis pod stood in the center of the room, its frosty surface concealing a human figure within. Holy shit, Roy breathed, stepping closer. He wiped condensation from the pod's display, revealing vital signs and an identity. Dr. Amelia Locke, chief xenobiologist. Laros blinked his large eyes rapidly. Impossible. A human preserved all this time? Roy's fingers flew over the stasis controls. We need to wake her up carefully. As the pod began its revival sequence, Roy explained the situation to the groggy Dr. Locke. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. What? Where am I? She mumbled, her voice hoarse from disuse. You're on the Prometheus, Roy said gently. It's been 50 years since the ship disappeared. We found you in stasis. Dr. Locke sat up abruptly, wincing at the movement. 50 years? But the attack, the aliens. She recounted her last memories. Chaos, screaming, the ship being overrun. I sealed myself in here. It was a desperate move. Roy nodded grimly. Dr. Locke, I'm sorry. We haven't found any other survivors. The rest of your crew, they didn't make it. Locke's face crumpled. She took a shuddering breath, composing herself. And Earth? What's become of humanity? Roy filled her in on humanity's progress, the formation of the galactic unity. You weren't forgotten, Doctor. Your mission inspired us to reach for the stars. Laros tapped his communicator. Unity, this is Laros. We've found a survivor. Repeat, we have a living human from the original Prometheus crew. The alien captain's voice crackled back, thick with disbelief. Confirmed, Laros. Stand by for further instructions. Dr. Locke struggled to her feet. We need to regain control of the ship. I should have clearance to bypass the AI lockdown. They moved to a nearby terminal. Locke pressed her palm to the scanner, but the system beeped in rejection. Damn it, she muttered. The AI is more paranoid than I thought. We'll have to go through this step by step. For the next hour, they worked methodically. Locke's expertise proved invaluable, but progress was frustratingly slow. The ancient AI fought them at every turn, adapting to their efforts. Roy's communicator chirped. The Unity's captain spoke tersely. Coleman, we're preparing to cut our way in. If you can't deactivate those defenses soon. Understood, sir, Roy replied. We're making progress. Just give us more time. He turned to Locke and Laros, perseverance etched on his face. We need to work faster. This ship, everything on board, it's too valuable to risk damaging. Let's bring her home. Roy's fingers flew over the ancient console as Dr. Locke called out instructions. Sweat beaded on his forehead as they fought against the Prometheus's stubborn AI. Try overriding subroutine 7 Alpha, Locke said, her voice tense. Roy input the command, but the system flashed red. Damn it, it's adapting faster than we can crack it. Laros monitored another terminal, his alien features creased with concern. The AI's defenses are evolving. It still sees us as hostile invaders. Roy smacked his head on the console. We need a new approach. He paused, considering their options. What if we reboot the whole system? A hard reset of the central core? Locke's eyes widened. That's incredibly risky. If we don't execute it perfectly, we could fry every system on the ship. Do we have a choice? Roy asked. They exchanged grim looks before nodding in agreement. The team made their way through winding corridors to the ship's heart, the central computer core. Roy stood guard as Locke and Laros began the intricate reboot sequence. Just as the final command was input, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared as Laros checked a nearby display. It's the Unity, he shouted. They're cutting into the hull. Roy grabbed his communicator. Unity, stand down. We're making progress. But it was too late. The Prometheus's weapon systems roared to life, locking onto the Unity. Bulkheads slammed shut around them as life support began to fail. Locke's face paled. Oh no, this is the final defense protocol. It's going to take us all down with it. Roy made a split-second decision. Laros, get the alien crew out of here. I'll stay behind. To his shock, Laros stood firm. No, we leave together or not at all. With options dwindling and air thinning, Roy and Laros shared a look of understanding. They turned to the main computer, preparing for one last bold strategy. We're going to overload it, Roy said. Crash the whole system before it can self-destruct. As they worked feverishly, consoles sparked and exploded around them. Roy shouted to Locke over the chaos. Get to the Unity shuttle, now! Locke hesitated, torn between duty and survival. With a final nod to Roy, she turned and ran. Roy and Laros locked eyes as the overload sequence neared completion. In that moment, species didn't matter. They were comrades united against cold, unfeeling logic. A massive explosion rocked the Prometheus. The shockwave propelled Locke's shuttle to safety as she watched the Unity pull away. Through the viewport, she saw only debris and uncertainty, with no sign of Roy or the others. The blinding flash seared Amelia Locke's retinas as the shockwave flung her into the void. Her body tumbled end over end, the explosion's thunderous roar fading to an eerie silence. Debris from the Prometheus peppered her flight path, jagged shards of metal glinting in the starlight. Locke's lungs burned as she gasped for air, her vision swimming. Through the haze, she caught sight of the Galactic Unity's engines flaring to life. The massive ship streaked away, a dwindling speck of light against the inky blackness. Her relief at their escape was short-lived. The realization of her dire situation hit her like a physical blow. She was adrift in open space. No suit, no propulsion. Just the tattered remnants of her uniform between her and the vacuum. Locke's heart pounded in her ears as she scanned the debris field. Her eyes strained against the darkness, searching for any sign of Roy or the others. Nothing. A flicker of green caught her attention. An alien shuttle, its hull scarred and smoking, limped through the wreckage. The hatch creaked open with a pneumatic hiss. Laros's elongated form emerged, his tentacles stretching out towards her. "Dr. Locke!" His voice crackled through her comm. "Grab on!" Locke flailed her arms, trying to alter her trajectory. Laros strained, his appendage just beyond her grasp. She could see the effort etched on his alien features, the persistence in his bulbous eyes. With a final push, Laros's tentacle wrapped around Locke's wrist. She felt the shuttle lurch as the last of its stabilizers gave out. They spun wildly, the stars blurring into streaks of light. Inside the cramped cockpit, Locke found herself face to face with Laros. His skin had taken on an ashen hue, his breathing labored. Yet there was something in his gaze she'd never seen before, a newfound respect, tinged with profound sadness. "Your captain was right," Laros wheezed, his grip on her tightening. "Against the relentless tides of entropy and the void, hope and unity are all we have." Before Locke could respond, Laros reached for his rebreather. With trembling hands, he removed the device and pressed it against her face. She felt a rush of cool air fill her lungs. "Laros, what are you—" The alien's tentacles flew over the controls. The cockpit sealed shut, trapping what little atmosphere remained inside. Laros slumped back, his eyes fixed on Locke. "No," she whispered, the horrible truth dawning on her. "Laros, don't—" But it was too late. The wadi scientist's eyes clouded over, his form going still. Locke's anguished cry echoed in the tiny space. Alone once more, Locke pressed her face against the viewport. Tears streamed down her cheeks, forming tiny globules that floated in the zero-G environment. The magnitude of Laros's sacrifice overwhelmed her. Through blurry eyes, she watched the field of stars slowly rotate. Each pinprick of light represented a world, a civilization, endless possibilities. Locke's mind drifted to Roy, to the crew of the Prometheus, to Laros. Their courage, their sacrifice, would not be in vain. She placed a hand against the cold metal of the shuttle's hull. "I'll make sure your stories are told," she vowed. "All of you." The shuttle drifted on, a tiny speck in the vastness of space. Locke could only hope that someone, somewhere, had noticed their plight. That rescue would come before the air ran out, or the cold claimed her. As she waited, suspended between hope and despair, Locke's thoughts turned to the legacy she now carried. The weight of two species' hopes and dreams rested on her shoulders. She would not let them down.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.